there's a lot of fear in Golf Canada that could be done, which would be really bad.
Well, time to get
really bad.
Time to get back on the Export A Open. Get
Oh,
Sigs back into the mix.
Yeah, they got to change SIGs, gambling. I guess they got to booze. They got to do something. You're right. We got to let booze back in the game.
You're entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. Farmers Insurance Open picks, one and done. Breakdown plus a recap of the heartbreaking American Express, depending on who you bet in those circumstances. And since basically no one bet Fuzzy Dunlap, then you probably had a heartbreak at the American Express. Reminder to everyone out there, this tournament starts on Wednesday this week, not Thursday. Wednesday concludes on Saturday. So keep that in mind when you join the Listeners League, which is now available down in the description. It's only 2,000 spots this week because it's happened the past few years where people just forget this tournament starts on Wednesday. They go to join on Wednesday. The tournament has already started, and then we barely get it filled. So I just shrunk it, so spots are going to be at a premium this week. 2,000 spots, 3 max entry, $15 to play. Boom! Go down in the description and go join right now. Smash the like and sub to the channel while you are here, and there's one more day to get into the Tambo giveaway. If you sign up at shipitnation.com right now and use code MAYO, you'll be thrown into a draw to get a free year of their PGA content, so I suggest that you go do that. And oh yeah, brand new fantasynational.com. That switch is going to be flicked very soon. I did the walkthrough on the new version as I was beta testing it all at the same time. Everything seems to be working. Moose is currently importing everyone's custom modelings over to the new system. So fantasynational.com/Mayo, brand new tools on the way very soon, plus a complete redesign. Well, not a complete redesign, but it just looks a whole lot sharper and moves a whole lot faster. So fantasynational.com/Mayo. Jeff, I threw this out on Twitter, and it didn't make me feel bad, but it did make me reevaluate everything that's going on. Nick Dunlap, 500 to 1, a guy you mentioned on the show last week. You were like the only person in the universe to bring this guy up. Ends up winning. 20-year-old amateur wins. First time since Phil Mickelson on the PGA Tour an amateur has won. That was in 1991. But he missed a short birdie putt on, I want to say it was like 14, maybe it was 12, whatever it was. And I have Sam Burns at 35 to 1. And I'm like, yes, here we go. I'm just actively rooting against the best story in golf in a very long time because I want to hit my bet. Now, obviously, I didn't hit my bet. A bunch of people had Bez. They didn't hit their bet. Paula, Justin Thomas, they didn't hit their bet. Dunlop comes through, just making some knee knockers the entire day. Had like 2 bad holes. I mean, realistically, 1 really bad hole and 1 really bad chip on a par 5. But dude was great. I can't believe he held up under the pressure.
Yeah, that one stings. I don't know what Sam Burns finished, but for guys like me who had Sahith, Ben N, and I'm just calling Sam Burns second place. Like, I'm calling it. So it's 3 in a row, second place. I had Cam Young, Pat. So when he was up a touchdown on Friday, I was dumb enough to think I have that one also. Not a good place, but we're going to keep firing. We're going to get back in that batter's box. We're going to swing away. We are going to miss again. It sucks being on the wrong side of history. Like, it sucks in sports when you make a bet that ends up being on the wrong side of something like historical that's going to be referenced, that's going to be put in our face a lot as golf fans. There is truly nothing worse. There is nothing worse. I'm going to see this highlight, assuming this kid is more than half decent, for a long time, in the same way that Phil, although they wanted to ignore it, existed for a little bit. In the same way that Phil story is always part of lore. So I hate losing a bet, but I hate that it's going to be we'll lose a bet. I'll lose a bet at the Heritage. I'll never be reminded of it again, unless I'm watching on the weekend and 5 years from now and they show the highlight in a moment of classic Heritage. We're going to see this forever. So I'm going to be reminded of it forever.
It's interesting. So I thought Burns kind of had the best strategy on Sunday, and I don't know what was going through his mind. Maybe he just got crossed up, but the pin was on 17 on the island green, was located on the right-hand side. And I was getting frustrated with Burns, especially on the front nine. Like, he was just taking the easy way out on every hole. Like, he wasn't firing at pins. He was just playing it to the safest part possible and putting it to an inch every single time. He barely missed a few birdie putts on the front. Then he started to get going, and he just started to be lights out from basically 15 feet and in. And then on 17, like, he plays this cut starting at left, like to get back towards the hole, and he just overcut it and it went in. And I'm just like, man, like, what are you doing? Just hit it to the center of the green. Put all the pressure on the 20-year-old guy. It's almost like, and I think JT fell into this too. And I mean, I don't know what was going through their heads throughout the course of the day, but it felt like early on, JT felt like he was behind by 4 strokes to start the day, so he had to make a move. But it felt like he tried to get overly aggressive to try to rattle Dunlap, and that didn't work, and he just ended up hitting it to the water twice on the front nine, or in the first 10 holes, whatever it was. But Burns was just like, yeah, I'll hit my greens in regulation, I'll two putt for par, take some easy birdies when they come my way, and make this guy actually go out and see if he'll melt down a little bit. And then it felt like when they got to 17, Burns was like, all right, it's time now. I'm going to stick some pressure on this kid. He just blew it. It was horrible.
I don't know. Burns a gamer. Burns a killer. There really wasn't a moment I thought he would lose to the kid. Like, in my head, I'm like, you're a Ryder Cupper, for fuck's sakes.
And a guy who's won. He has 6 wins. Like, this shouldn't be an issue for him.
I bet when I bet Sam Burns, it's like, because you just know the guy is a gamer. He wants to, if he was playing you or I, he'd just want to beat us by 50, 150. Like, that's the impression I get from him, is he's like a throat stomper. When he shows up at like shittier events, he just is there to embarrass people, not even have a good time.
I was going to come on here if he won, because it was going through my mind that it's really nice to back someone who can putt for once, because you feel very good about it. And I mean, the putting wasn't the problem for Sam Burns. He putted very well. But then, yeah,
great.
I mean, I didn't really, I guess I get what he was doing on 18 when he went into the water again. He's like, well, now I need to make birdie. If I don't make, like, he needed a birdie and Dunlap needed a bogey in order to force a playoff, and Bezadenhout would have been in it as well. So I get taking the super aggressive line to set yourself up to try to attack that pin. And 17
you're also
and 18,
on tilt.
You're on tilt too, but like now you have to press because you're out of it. He almost made that super long bogey putt on 17 as well, which would have been crazy.
Yeah, you had to press while on tilt. That leads to the water. Yeah, geez, everything else, nice week of, had a lot of guys, felt like in the running, good positions, feel like I'm seeing it. Also, like with Burns and Ann, I bet them, and they were like late bets. It's part of me saying, like, I don't need to rush into anything. Just let the week, let the Benita, as she goes by now.
Yeah, but this is always going to be the advantage currently, as it's currently structured, that PGA has over LIV, is stories like this. And I think that we pointed to that. We were talking about
Magic. Felt like it wasn't for sale, Pat. Now I don't know. Like, maybe it's because there was a football game on that I didn't feel like ranting about the Magic, or since John Rahm left, like, truly it feels to me like, I don't know, does feel like the Magic is actually totally for fucking sale, despite yesterday.
Well, so far this season, we've had a 125 to 1 winner, a 500 to 1 winner, and a 500 to 1 winner. So that's a lot of fun. Everyone's hitting all their bets. That I can tell you.
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of people who have at least 2 second places, because it's been very popular picks, coming up short, like guys that people are group thinking on right there in the end, right? Last week was funny. It was Keegan and Ben on. This one, I don't know how many people bet JT. Props to Paul. I certainly wasn't thinking about that. And even for the Dunlop shout out, like, yes, this is an outright betting show. Yes, that was the part of the show where we are naming names. Yes, if I was insane if I was the most insane and I did what I did last week, I would probably be coming on here saying I won. That's a win. Give me credit. It doesn't matter if I didn't bet it. But I'm not that person. I'm not that person. We know how that person would have reacted to it. But in true sincerity, I was just mentioning him like to golf fans, like keep an eye. It's fun sponsors exemption. Not one moment. Not one moment. I didn't consider it, didn't give a shit. Credit to everyone. A couple people put a few bucks on him.
There was a guy, he
Yeah.
tweeted me that he had bet it because he heard you talk about it. He put $10 on it at 500 to 1 and he cashed out on Saturday for $140. That's tough. It's a tough beat.
That is so tough. I mean, why bet it? And then if
Yeah.
it's there, why cash it out? Even if it feels impossible, I don't know. Because I said I never thought he was going to win until Splash. I didn't think it mattered till Burns went wide right.
It was a
But
day,
why-
it was a day of wide right then.
When you cash out, I mean, that guy can never, how do you put this? I don't know. Cashing out, to my understanding, when you cash out, they create data points on you, which just screams sucker.
So maybe
And you're like, cash outs get worse. Because I've seen situations where friends of mine, one who likes to cash out, one who never cashes out, had the exact same bet, and their offers were drastically different. I'm not talking about yesterday. I'm talking about in the past with golf. So just know every time you cash out, you're labeled a sucker, I think, on the system. Unless it's something super special.
I looked at it. I had never really considered doing it because I looked at the Burns bet. And even when he was down by a shot, they were giving me 900. They were giving me like 12 to 1 on his win. Well, yeah, it would have been a very nice payday, obviously. And then when he took the lead, they were giving me like 16 to 1. But I felt the same way that you did. Just like the entire day, I wasn't really stressed out. I was in my mind thinking, Burns got this. Like, this is fine.
Yeah. And maybe it's just so hyper focused on the football that even with the ticket, golf was still like a side experience. Yeah. I don't know. Hasn't set in, but it's going to set in because I'm going to realize like I got to make deposits and that's no fun. And I haven't been cashing out from golf and I feel like I should have caught something, but it's cruel. It's cruel. Gotta get off the mat. I'm going to keep swinging here though, Pat. I promise. And I've made no swings yet. I hear you've made a few, so I'm interested.
I told you I had bet on 3 guys. I've actually bet on 4 guys now that I went and looked at it because I saw one of the guys' numbers just crash in real time at DraftKings Sportsbook while you were talking. I was like, oh, I better go bet him at my place now before it crashes. I'd already bet him.
Is he a good player?
Yes, he is. It's Min Woo Lee.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because I saw I saw the biggest big. Okay, now I made up do something. Yeah, he's still. I can still catch a Phillip Rivers, a nice one. Okay.
Yeah, and you can catch that one if you wanted Aubert. He's 21 enhanced at Phillip Rivers right now. He's 20 at DraftKings Sportsbook, so he dropped from 18.
How do you know? Like Fienberg's in a mutt, and he's just gonna just play his babies. Like, what's going on here?
I bet.
Haven't spoken.
I bet Aubert too.
Oh yeah, Feinberg's in trouble. He just, yeah. How does Feinberg get off the mat? He just goes to his guys, even if they're babies, even if they happen to be babies.
Well,
The question is though, Pat, there's like no ROM, just no ROM. Because in the past we'd come to Torrey Pines and I would literally say, it's not a U.S. Open, but you're betting like good players, like your player profile U.S. Open. Props to you, Luke List, Monster. Point being is, there's this new world and all these underdogs. Like, I would never pay attention to the back, sometimes regularly, but especially at a major championship venue. Am I supposed to like give it respect, or is it still like, fuck that?
No, I think that you should because we saw Homo won at 25, hit that one last year. That was really nice. Hit List the year before at 90 to 1. I mean, Stallings won this at 200 to 1. Stallings almost won it again the next year when Jason Day won in that playoff. I remember that vividly because I had JB Holmes and Gary Woodland in that playoff at, pretty deep odds. Like, guys can make runs here. This is a hard course, which the better players, like, To quote the Macho Man, the cream rises to the top. Yeah. But you can make a few putts along the way. Like, there's no reason Patrick Reed should have ever won this tournament. Like, that was mind-boggling. You just never see that skill set. But even Leishman won at 80. I think you hit that one.
The Leishman was crazy. He was all over the map, and he just hit everything. Yeah.
So that is a.
You're right. It's the Jason Days, the good players.
Yeah.
My card will be good players. I'm swinging with good players. I'm getting off the mat. Conference championship weekend, Wednesday through Saturday. Good players or my guys. I'm not fucking around anymore. That being said, I don't know. Like, Benny Ann wasn't my guy. I got there, but okay, just talking it through. I'm a mess. I'm probably in better shape than Paul, but I just want to say, Pat, in this city, those Bills, they live for real. Like, I stopped by a McDonald's last night because I was out watching the game, and it's the nerves of the game. Like, I didn't even eat, so I was hungry after. And my local McDonald's, you'd have thought the Leafs just got eliminated in the playoffs. Like, it's real here. So there's just an aura around. We'll see. An aura around.
We'll save it for the Spread Pick show tomorrow when we got Cust on the line. But I actually think it worked out better for the Bills this way, that they missed the field goal, and that was that, rather than them making the field goal and Kansas City just marching down the field and scoring.
Easily. Yeah, easily. Fair. Oh yeah, tomorrow we do it all. Have fun.
Anything else from the American Express? It seemed like the coverage was a little bit better this year at some of the other courses, although when I turned into the main feed before they actually went to the Golf Channel, it was a featured Group 3 ball, and Scotty Scheffler for reasons unknown, because he wasn't really even in the tournament, but it was just those three guys and Scotty Scheffler. That's all they were showing. And people were complaining about how terrible the coverage was, that you had to pay for to watch the early part of the final round. Even to watch the leaders, you had to pay for ESPN Plus or TSN Plus up here in order to watch it before they actually kicked over to the actual coverage on Golf Channel, which is kind of crazy that we didn't pick up the leaders till hole 5 or 6, whatever it was. But the coverage was just so bad at the same time. I was watching the Lions and Bucks game while I was just streaming the Sirius radio through the PGA app, which is completely free. Like, I highly recommend streaming the Sirius feed, like when you're on the go or you're trying to watch something else. You get more coverage on that than you do on any of the feeds.
You get way more insight also. Like, you were mentioning Burns playing it safe on Sunday, but listening to a lot of the early Burns round on radio, Pat, it did seem like, for whatever reason, like a little bit of a downhill lie or in a bit of a swale, like his driving just wasn't totally on point. So I don't know, they made it seem like they were just the littlest things that made him not able to go full attack, which felt like maybe that's my perception. It kept happening, but the radio it's just truly fabulous. In a younger life, I probably would have been one of these guys, these young kids with piss and vinegar, like just screaming about the tracking or the TV. But I don't. MX is just so it's so ingrained in me. I said it last week. I like the Zurich more than the MX until dinner time on Saturday. I'm a Zurich. Like, give me the Zurich. I mean that. I'm also into different things. I'm sad there's no match play. To me, like, we play team golf, that sort of format, not team golf, but like the pairing golf, team pairing golf is like real. That's a format. I think that's a legit event that people hate. I think I like it more. I mean that.
It would be, I like the American Express, and I put this up because I saw the PGA Tour Twitter feed put out the shot from the rocks that Duffner hit and almost jarred it in the year in 2016. But Chris Kirk had that same shot yesterday, just beep, dunk back into the water. See, did you happen to see the shot tracker for Si Woo on 17 Sunday?
So it went, he was in the rocks and then he hit it no feet, then to 5 feet. I was only tracking that because I was curious how long the leaders are having to wait on the tee or when I can flip back to it from football or something.
So I'll ask Tambo tomorrow, but I got knocked out of a bunch of tournaments, I was like not min cashing, but like pretty well into the money in some of these like single entries and 3 maxes. And then because I had Burns, and then Burns melted down, I dropped out of 2 of them and stuck in the 250 by a hair, which was really nice and get most of your money back for the week. But Tambo was in first. He was winning 20K, and he had Burns and Siwoo on that team. He ended up coming third. He was up by like 50 points too.
Listen, that sucks. That guy, though, I don't even know. Because, sometimes you get caught on the For You channel of your feed. And it's like, you don't know, maybe this tweet's from 7 days ago where Tambo won like 80K or 100K or 20K or 200K or 70K. Chop this, chop that. The guy is, I don't know. Is he's better than anyone, I think.
Well, I don't know about that, but he did win $67,000 Saturday night in the Niners and Packers showdown contest.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. No surprise. Do you know Homa for this event, Pat? Actually, I want to, on those like early advance repeats, there was 25s out there.
Oh, was it really? I wish I would have seen that and bet it.
Yeah, right. Makes you feel silly, but also like stare those down sometimes. You obviously found the Pheno one that you played, but sometimes, yeah, there are nice things out there. Before we get into it, I just want to make note. I don't know if you saw, you probably saw that Phil and Callaway are done, and Lexi and Bridgestone are done. Obviously,
I didn't see that one, but sure, I'll take your word for it.
No, I don't mean to compare them. The fact that I even had to say them in what felt like in the same breath felt kind of silly as it was coming out of my mouth. But at the same time, it's just another example to me of I'm not saying they ain't worth shit, but like the gig is up. They've caught on. Like it's just, there's like little to no return from.
Well, I'm sure that there is return for it, but we've talked about the different ways that you can go about it. I mean, it's no different than even people in our space where, you can see, like, just take how DraftKings spends their money, for example, versus somewhere like Prize Picks spends their money or Underdog spends their money. That you can pay Jamie Foxx or your BetMGM. You pay Jamie Foxx $10 million to star in all these commercials that you can air during the Super Bowl, or even during football or whatever it is, any sporting event, and getting people to become aware of your book. So you're buying some prestige by having Jamie Foxx attached to it. He's a very notable celebrity. People know who Jamie Foxx is. But you have to spend all that money in order to do it, to produce the commercial, to pay him, and then actually buy the time. Is it worth doing that, or taking $50,000 and going to TikTok and being like, hey, here's an affiliate link and $500, fire away? Like, what do you think you get more return for? It might be the TikTok thing.
I'm crazy enough, and maybe I'm like not deep into it, but like enough into the space where I think it is option B. It's just overwhelm those people who have audiences, who have loyal and engaged audiences, versus a Jamie Foxx commercial that kind of plays like a fart in the wind. Good luck on your parlay, though, pal.
Well, I do appreciate that I now know that I can play blackjack at funerals, but other than that, I did want to bring up that Duffner thing, though, because I put it out, I quote tweeted it, that it's weird when you look back at different moments in your life to say that like things changed when certain things happen. That Duffner chip, and then him going on to win the American Express, beating Lingmerth in the playoff, set off a weird chain reaction of events in my life that I don't know what would have happened if Jason Duffner didn't win that event. So Duffner wins that event. We both hit the 40-1 on that. That's awesome. We have the extra money in the account, and we bet Willett. I bet him at 125-1 and put more money on it than I would have because I was flush with cash in my gambling account at that point. Willett ends up winning the Masters, so I end up winning $15,000. But also, in conjunction with that, because both you and I had been talking about Willett for 3 months, everyone kind of wins on Willett. The show, sees 3 times as many subs, the views go way up. Like, it really did make the show. It put like rocket fuel onto our show, like becoming more noteworthy and popular, and people would tune into it every single week. But because I had that, my wife and I were we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do. We wanted to put a down payment on a condo because we were living in an apartment, but we were also getting married later that year, later in 2017. So we had to start thinking about like budgeting for the wedding and all of that. So we had this money saved for a down payment, and we didn't know the extent of what we could do for our wedding. We knew where we wanted to have it. We knew how much it was going to cost, and we just legit couldn't afford it. So we kind of had to pick. Did we want to buy a place, or did we want to have the wedding that we wanted to have? And it looked like it was leaning towards the wedding that we wanted to have. Then all of a sudden, I have this like found $15,000 that it made both things possible. And without that, like, I'm probably not sitting here right now. It's funny to think that something as innocuous as a Jason Duffner chip on the 17th hole at PGA West could change my life so drastically.
I like get a little emotional as you just recount it and you tell it back, you tell it forwards, but with the, the hindsight of seeing it, how it played out backwards. It's crazy. Timing is everything. I don't know, luck, timing, all of it. Because Pat, if that also happens I know like 2 years is a long time, but in the macro sense, it's a very short time. If that happens 2 years earlier, or even like a year and a half earlier, before you're like with your wife and serious, bro, you're just going to Vegas and like fucking off with like 12K. Like, I mean that, like with your
100%.
buddies, like who knows what you do with that money in the end, or even invest in yourself. Although we were still at pretty much the beginning there. As for the rocket fuel, it's just because the space was so small.
Agreed.
Like, no doubt that could help someone today. Like, it would. You can't not hit 101 in the space and get retweeted and hyped. But the space was so small that it was just that much bigger, if that makes any sense. Like, it kind of pedestaled your show. That would be much harder to be pedestaled today because, there was just so much less traffic to get to the top in the small niche.
Oh, for sure. It was me and you. It was the Tour Junkies, and it was Kenny, Brad,
Golf Insider,
and Zach Woods, and it was like Bergerson and Zach. Like, that was basically it.
Yeah, and like Kenny was like starting doing content. But it was
still the Fantasy Golf Degenerates, but it was Zach, Brad, and Kenny. The three of them were doing Fantasy Golf Degenerates at the time. So yeah, the space was super condensed. I mean, like you said, it's all about timing, but it's also being first to the scene. I talked about this with Pete and Brian on Lowell's last week when I went on there. It's actually on my pod feed too. On the back end of the Friday podcast, I have the entire conversation that I had with those guys from that show. So if you want to download the Pat Mayo Experience, subscribe to it, turn on those auto downloads, I would very much appreciate it. But even if you don't want to do that and you just want to listen to it, it's at the back end. You can hit the time code, boom, you just put that in your earballs after you listen to this show. But we kind of talked about like, what's next? Like, what do you want to be at the forefront of next? And I mean, that's the hardest part to figure out. Like, we were able to do that well, like video podcasting. I had one of the first video podcasts. I've had this podcast feed for 15 years now when people didn't have podcasts. And that was a big advantage. I built up a big base when no one had any of this stuff. And I've retained that over the years. And people have come along with me. And there's people who've been listening to the show for 12 years now. That's absolutely insane to think about. But being first to the scene was a huge advantage. With Fantasy National, we were the first of that product. Being first to the scene was huge in that space. I mean, even someone like Davis with Top Shots, when Top Shots came out, he sold a Tyler Hero Top Shot for like $30K and then got out of the market. Like, but he was there early, took advantage of it, and got himself out. Like, there's stuff that's coming along, and it's not just in our space; it's in every space. But can you make that determination that this is something that I want to be in on early and try to maximize it? I mean, people in Bitcoin. Just there's different ways that you can attack this, but being early is really the one key thing that binds all these things together.
Yeah. I mean, isn't like a venture capitalist just like have the money to just try to be early across the board?
Sure.
Like, isn't that all you're doing is like just a life of trying to be early?
Yeah.
Like, that's what the people with the most money are doing.
Sure.
Like,
but I'm talking about more about like, regular people who might not have billions of dollars to invest.
No, but it's weird because you're probably right. I could be forgetting or insulting someone. I don't think there was a video golf betting podcast, video golf bets before you. I don't know. I don't believe it. I guess it could be proven to me that there was, but I don't know. And if there was, you did it good enough to get ahead of all of them.
Well,
and like you said,
we did
here today.
I would not do this without you. I mean, I have done it without you, but it was because of the two of us that made that show good.
Yeah, and sometimes I think it was Lowell's. I think Peter said it. I don't know whether it was in your episode or in a past one, but he makes a joke. Sometimes you just look around you at your friends, you're like, what am I doing with my life? I'm like sweating parlays. I'm like making stupid videos about this and that. And sometimes you feel like, what the fuck am I doing? But then you Pat, it happens. Like once in a while, we get it a lot. And this isn't to even talk yourself up, but people count on the consistency of the show. And how many times have gotten messages that I don't know, the show, even as silly or stupid as it is, it's like a part of people's lives and it helps them get through a day, sometimes really bad days, sometimes makes good days better. And I joke with my wife about these shows that no, I will the consistency in the show is almost as important as anything. And I will do anything to maintain that drop.
Yeah, if anyone's ever thinking about getting into content whatsoever, consistency, besides having a good product, a quality product that people enjoy, that just having it come out at the same time on a schedule is 90% of the battle. You don't want to have people going to look for things.
And I live a life where I'm consuming a lot of other people's content, and that's part of my daily life routine. And whether it be when I'm walking the dogs, I want that, or I'm out in the car. I have my content routine, and I appreciate those who deliver it on time for me. But yeah, wild that chip from the rocks. Even if that ball just hit the rocks, went in the water, who knows?
But I do want to thank all of you great people for tuning into the video, for listening to the podcast, because without you all tuning in, then we wouldn't be able to do this. We'd have to go find real jobs. And that is not something that I am capable of doing. This is basically the only thing in life I can do. So continue to tune in and share the show around and do all that fun stuff. That is the sentimental portion of the show. Let's talk about the Farmers Insurance Open, because this kicks off 4 awesome weeks of golf. This might actually be the best 4-week stretch of the year for golf, which is kind of crazy to think about because there's no majors, there's no nothing. But we get this week, the field is good at Torrey Pines, like it always is, even without Rahm being around and Rory not playing this year. This field is still very strong, and it is a venue, despite the fact that golf nerds in their parents' basement, I don't like this course. It's very boring. I love it. I can't get enough of this course every single year. I think it generates interesting tournaments almost every single time. And you do, you might kind of mention, you have a lot of the top guys who are in the tournament end up there at the end. It's a good sticky course history type place. When you take a look at it, I put this in the early look in the newsletter that I sent out on Sunday, that 13 of the past 15 winners have had a top 10 previously at this event before winning. The only 2 not to do that was Scott Stallings from the Clouds in 2014 and Rahm when he won in his first ever visit to Torrey Pines. So we can kind of throw him off the board. But it's good to know that first-timers can actually persevere at a course like this. And my full article with picks, with breakdowns, will be out on Monday afternoon after this show is out. So please go subscribe to the Mayo Media Substack, the newsletter. It's completely free. The link is down in the description right now. And please go share it around for us. And keep getting at Michael Kim on Twitter. I want to get Michael Kim on the show. So keep tweeting at Michael Kim that you need to come on Pat's show with all of this. It's 2 courses, though, and it starts on Wednesday. I think people always forget that the North Course is in play for this tournament because no one really ever pays attention to it. There's no shot link at that course. It's a lot like the American Express, where they're just kind of, if you're playing at the North Course, it's way easier. It's 500 yards shorter. If you're playing Showdown, just take all guys at the North Course. Don't even worry about the South Course the first 2 days. But it's like they're playing in a void.
In some ways, they are. I mean, if you're playing the secondary course on a Wednesday, did it even happen? Probably not. But it's key. You've got to get your you got to make your strokes where you can to put yourself into position. But I'm with you, Pat. I love it here. I've got sort of some ties to the region, so it's always been one of my favorite places. And people my age or kids when it happened, the just Tiger memories here make it elite. I don't care if a lot of the holes look the same. They look beautiful to me.
And I like that it's the first hard tournament that we get in the year, which is always really nice. You have this. And now that they've saved Pebble by making an elevated event, it's still a pro-am. It's going to be 70 players, and there's not going to be a cut. But you get all of the best players in the world next week at Pebble Beach, which I do think is very sharp by the PGA to put that historic course that everyone knows with the best field possible on the week where football isn't happening. I think that's a great idea. So you get everyone playing next week. Then Phoenix is the next week as the lead into the Super Bowl, and that field isn't an elevated event either, but you already have Scheffler's going back to see if he can three-peat. Victor's playing in that field. Xander's playing. It's a very strong field anyway without being an elevated event. Then we go to Riv the next week where it is an elevated event. It's Tiger's tournament. I believe Tiger is playing, isn't he?
Yeah, he said he was playing.
So then you get Tiger to kind of cap off this 4-week stretch. And then I'm going on vacation because the Mexico Open is happening. And then what used to be the Honda is happening. So you have like your down weeks before you start getting into players, major season, Florida swing, everything like that. But these 4 weeks are just fantastic because it's not like football is consuming all of your day, all of your week. There's 2 games this week, then there's no games, then there's 1 game. Golf can actually wedge its way in right now into the sports consciousness.
Yeah, and how they do it perfectly with the fact that they're done on the Saturday this week. Next week, they're taking advantage of the no Super Bowl. You almost wonder if Nance, because it's elevated and it's like his home, and sometimes, so he's going to be there having a ball. And then the Super Bowl, I don't know about you guys, but at least my Super Bowl party is the Waste Management is the pregame show. And sometimes it's gone way too long with all those goddamn playoffs and excitement over the years. But I'm with you. And then Riv, okay, be nice to hit a bet.
Can we get 2? Can we get 2 winners the next 4 weeks? That would be nice.
Well, I'll be honest, Pat. There's field changes that could alter this. I'm going to come on with you for the Phoenix show, and I just have a futures card. Like, I don't even think I can make a bet that week. DraftKings has had odds up there for weeks, months. So I've already got my guys for Phoenix. I'm hoping to not have to lay a bet, and San Fran can make the Super Bowl. Then I got my future on there, and then that's like I don't have to go out of pocket for huge exposure weeks. Ooh, that'd feel like a win, even if I lose.
Are those numbers still up at DraftKings Sportsbook right now? Yeah, they are. The waste management.
They have odds, or are they
the waste management field? Because it's not. I guess here's the one thing to look into before placing any wagers. That DraftKings will probably pay you as a non-runner if the guys don't play. But there are players in this field right now that are not so far committed to playing in Phoenix.
100%, but
like Min Woo is on that board. He's great odds at 50-1, but he is
I have an 80.
Well, even if you have an 80, he's not committed to playing in Phoenix yet, so he might not play in Phoenix. And I think that because of the legal, listen, if they're giving refunds on Deebo Samuel overs because he got hurt after 6 plays, which DraftKings Sportsbook did, and I don't see why people are mad about that. People are tweeting like, "Look how soft this is." Like, good, people got their money back. Great. I'm happy that people didn't lose their money. I'm always happy when people don't lose their money. But we've been in situations before where we've bet futures that player doesn't qualify for the field because we got a great number. And they're like, fuck you. You should have read the rules.
I'm confident DraftKings is going to make good. I have so much on Ludwig at 40 or 40 probably for this. It's he might not play.
He is not committed to playing. He is committed to playing this week, next week, and the Genesis. That is currently an off week for him.
Yeah, so I have 3 guys. I don't know if they're playing, but I have huge numbers. I have Minwoo 80, Sahith 65, and Ludwig 40. I need them to play.
That's a good Thigala number. He's playing. He is committed to playing.
Yeah. Shout out to Josh Perry. He put me on that one out of the gate when they dropped those. And then when Rom went to live, it sort of sent that market. That's when I really sort of reinvested into that market.
Sahith is
But
still
I always knew it
40.
wasn't elevated and things could get weird. But I have confidence in DraftKings in sort of today's climate that they will make good on no runners.
I might get you to put some money on Sahith for me. He's still 40 to 1. I think that I would still probably I would probably do that there. Cam Young is 40 there as well, and he is committed to playing.
That's one that I don't mind, especially as the field gets weaker. Okay, yeah, you talk to me after.
All right,
do it.
perfect. Well, let's talk about this tournament. I think there are two types of skills that you want to target. Like bombs away at a course that's almost 7,800 yards where you're going to play 3 of the tournaments where barely anyone hits the fairway. You do want to hit the fairway because the rough is long, but only 50% of the field at the South Course hits the fairway. You can watch all of this on the research show, which I put out on Sunday this week. It's up on Mayo Media Network right now, so please go subscribe. The other one is your more average distance but hyper accurate type players that are also good with their long irons, because this is going to be a very long course. You still need to be good in proximity from 200 plus, but you need to be able to hit a bunch of fairways. Essentially the Colin Morikawa strategy, where you're not going to veer off left and right all that often. You're going to hit a ton of fairways, but you're absolutely deadly with a 5-iron in your hand at the same time. I'm
probably going to play segment 1, but if I did play the very top of this odds board, near the very top, Colin Morikawa would be my favorite pick.
So let's get into that. Let's go to the very top of the odds because there's 4. Because Justin Thomas withdrew after the conclusion of the American Express because he moved to number 23 in the world, which got him automatically into the elevated event next week at Pebble. He didn't have to play his way in, so he's not going to play this week. He's going to take the week off, and he's another one that probably ends up in Phoenix anyway because he tends to play Phoenix every single year. Yeah, he is committed to Phoenix, and now he's in Pebble Beach, so he'll play 3 weeks in a row. He's taking this week off. Xander is 9. He's the favorite. Cantlay and Homa are both at 10. Homa's the defending champion and just wins in California. And Morikawa is 11 to 1. Those are the big 4. Morikawa, Jeff, is Tim's one and done this week. When I asked him who his one and done was, he said Justin Thomas, and I said, but Justin Thomas isn't playing. He said, okay, how about Morikawa? I said, you're in. So he's in last right now in the one and done, but he's going with Colin Morikawa. He's bringing out a big gun early for this event.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I don't blame anyone who's going to use Colin. Maybe you want to be more strategic with it, but again, you just reeled off the top. He is my favorite pick of the ultra high-end category golfer this week. I have tried to think about, are there ways to construct a card that I could bet him? Could I even make a 3-man like power card? I've thought about it. I'm swimming around it. I might just have too many names between like 25 and 40 pull me away though.
That's what happened to me. I just bet someone as you were talking because I saw the number go down in one place and he was on my short list. I was like, I might as well grab the number. I want to bet him anyway. But of those 4 guys at the top, it would be Homa, Morikawa, Xander, then Cantlay for me. Cantlay actually doesn't have a top 10 at this course. So that means by trends, that automatically disqualifies him. And I don't want to root for Patrick Cantlay. I don't want to be in a situation where one of my favorite guys is going to win the tournament and I'm sitting there with a Patrick Cantlay ticket, being like, oh my God, I got to root for Cantlay. I just don't want that to happen to me. With all things being equal, just no thank you.
Yeah, and I've acknowledged it's maybe part of what's made us, endearing to some people is like we're still just golf fans. This thing started is because we're golf fans and we're going to talk about golf the same way people come on a Monday to talk about football with that sort of excitement and that sort of like frustration. But with that comes I'm not a robot. I'm not betting on. I've bet Patrick Cantlay plenty over the years, lots of bad, some good. But in this moment in time, like I just have no interest. And maybe that's so weird how the media can just make you seem away. And I've liked pieces of shit on tour before. I've rallied behind guys I've perceived as pieces of shit on tour before and bet them. But I don't know.
I don't even think that he's a piece of shit.
I say that that's unfair. That's a little harsh.
I just hate watching him just Do the wiggle.
No,
like
but it's
every
more, I
shot
don't
takes
know,
like
it's deeper
4
for me.
minutes. It's like, oh my God. And the funny thing is that you mentioned, like, we bet Patrick Cantlay over the years. I bet you, because I don't bet him all that often, but I have 3 wins with Patrick Cantlay that I've bet on him for. He might be one of my most profitable golfers of all time.
Yeah, potentially. I don't know. I'm just so him and Xander are not getting any of my money unless it's a situation like it potentially was like at the Century where it's like they're major numbers for not majors when there's other good players. But when they're the best players, I don't have interest. I don't have any interest when they're like 2 of the 3 best players in the field and those numbers. No, I'd rather bet Colin. They can win. They can prove me wrong. I don't like money, I guess.
So this is the range where you and I were both talking about this next one down. It's Aubert, Sungjae, 20 and 22 at DraftKings Sportsbook. Min Woo is 22 at DraftKings Sportsbook. There are 30s out there, so go look. Finau is 25. Day is 25. Keegan's 35. Eric Cole is 35. Sahith is 40. Then you have Zalatoris, Rose, Hideki. Harris English number has crashed down to 45. Adrian Maronk, the Moroncan Rolla, the Polish Giraffe, coming off a T2 in Dubai last week. They're all 45 to 1. Then you got like Straka and Nikolai Højgaard, Berger, and Shane Lowry in that 50 range as well. So I've made 1, 2, 3, 4 bets in this range.
Wow. Can I guess?
Let's have it. I've told you 2 of them already.
Yeah, so I think you're on Jason Day.
I'm not on Jason Day. Jason Day does have the best history of anyone at this course, though.
Okay, so the ones that I'm looking at are obviously the Bergman Woo we've spoken about.
Yeah,
and
so
I'm
I got 19 on Aubert, on Ludwig. He's 20 at DraftKings Sportsbook right now, but I'm not going to finagle all that. I'll just take the 19 and be on my way.
Sahith and Finau.
Okay, so Sahith was the one that I bet while you were talking, because he went down to 40 at DraftKings Sportsbook, and I had a 45. So I got Aubert at 19, Sahith at 45, Min Woo at 30, and the first click that I made this morning was Keegan at 35. Keegan has 3 top 5 finishes. His past 6 starts at this tournament. This is the ultimate. Keegan still has a bit of plus distance, but he's been wildly accurate off the tee. He has gained both driving and approach in each of his past 6 turns at the Farmers Insurance Open. That's only including the South Course. Some weeks, some of those tournaments, he putts great. The other ones, he putts shitty. That's the whole Keegan experience. But I feel like he's buried a little bit in the odds where he probably should be higher. But everyone's just kind of like mad at him because he came second at the Sony. Like, he had a really good week at the Sony. He just didn't win in the playoff. And that's weirdly being held against him, I think. Like, he should, like, in what world should Finau be 25 to 1 with the way he's playing and Keegan is 35 with the way that he's playing?
Okay, that is fair. But you could just literally insert like Mike Singletary here for me at Keegan at 35 to 1. Can't do it.
Really?
Can't
Why
do
not?
it.
Why not?
I don't know. Listen, I might have said this when we recorded first thing on the Benny Ann. I've been like, Benny Ann 35, 40. Can't do it. Like, I just can't do it. And then by the time we got to Wednesday and it was time to have a card and there was Benny Ann, I'd rather bet my own. If I'm going top heavy, I'd rather bet my own losers. I guess that's really the only honest thing to say, because as you present numbers fair and balanced, they're all there. Like, everything points to Keegan. The course fit seems like it's perfect, other than you're in the Northeast thing. We're a little west, but he's striking it so well. Maybe that doesn't matter. He'll keep it clean. And he'll miss some putts, but if the scoring isn't going to be that high, then he'll be right where he needs to be. I get the case. And the books are maybe telling you, don't bet him. Don't bet him. You don't want to bet Keegan, because Keegan should be 50, and I don't know that he'd get more action.
Oh, maybe he'll end up dropping. Maybe I should cash out the 35 and just sit on it and wait on a number. I was just excited to bet him. Fantasy National is going to have a new filter when the complete update is through. It's called spike percentage. It's something that I wanted Moose to add in. You can set the strokes gained per round for any of the stats. It doesn't really work with like driving distance or anything like that because we weight all of that. And if you gain a bunch on driving distance, then you're going to be great. You're going to gain more than 2 strokes because it's weighted differently. But for your general ones, off the tee, approach, chipping, putting, and total, you can set to whatever you want. And when I call it spike percentage, like how many outlier rounds do they have with a lot of this stuff? Like how often so I have like, let's sort by past 24 rounds right now on Fantasy National. And I did this on the walkthrough for the entire field so you can see it. And I'll set 2 strokes gained per round putting. So how often do they gain 2 or more strokes putting in a round over the past 24 rounds? You can set that to any range that you want. And you take a look, like it's not all the best putters that you'd be surprised about. Like Keegan is gaining, and Keegan's been a pretty decent putter. He can be a really terrible putter at the same time. He kind of vacillates a little bit, but he's gained in 1/5 of his rounds. He's gaining more than 2 strokes putting. If he can just put together 2 of those rounds this week, he was second here last year too, by the way.
Matt, this could be such a boring leaderboard. And what I mean like good players, but if it is like a Keegan, Harris English, like Sepp Straka, Jason Day, like Justin Rose, I don't know if that's even boring. That's probably unfair to even call that boring. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like there's all these guys at the books number. Maybe the field just isn't strong. Maybe I was expecting bigger numbers. I don't know. There are a lot of boring guys that seem like they make perfect sense this week, and I would rather bet the flashy dudes I like. And Finau could be part of that. And I'm a problem then. I'm a problem.
Finau's not getting my money. I mean, he'll get my money for Mexico because he's the only player like in the world committed to playing that tournament right now. And I got him at 18-1. He's going to open at 4-1 to win that tournament unless he hurts himself sometime in the next few weeks. But he's just not been good. Like, and I went with Sahith because I went back and I watched the last 3 years of this tournament, each of the rounds. Sahith was very much in this a year ago when he just kind of had a bad weekend. That's happened to him a few times, but he's almost on the Homa trajectory right now. Like Homa wins in Napa, then he repeats in Napa, and he picks up his win at Riv, then he picks up his win at Torrey Pines. Like, dude is just lights out in California. We've seen Sahith kind of do the same thing where he's been good in California. He got the win in Napa late last year, so maybe it's just going to pay itself forward. I thought that 45 was a good number for him. And his skill set is weird because he's just going to blast it off the tee. We've seen Leishman spray it wherever you want, and it's fine. And he has enough short game and good long irons. Like, he's very, as Sky kind of pointed out, that he's very Spiethy in that way. Like, some weeks he just doesn't have it, and he'll chip himself out of the tournament. But with the weeks when he does have it, he'll chip in 3 times. He'll make a few bombs. Like, that's the week that I'm hoping for at 45-1 here.
I got nothing bad to say. He was part of a list of players I am looking hard at, and it's a matter of picking Morikawa or a couple of these guys in the mid 30s, 40s.
And Min Woo just fits every profile that you want at this course, except he can't hit an iron. That's tough. Like, he is absolute dog shit with his irons. So you have to like hope you get a break-even week from him with his irons. But in terms of like that spike putting percentage I talked about, there's like no one better than Min Woo. Min Woo gains over 2 strokes putting in 40% of his rounds. He's amazing around the greens, and he might be the longest player off the tee whose name isn't Cameron Champ.
I'm going to say it a lot, as I bet him to lose tournaments weekly, but I've played him at the first 3 majors and the Waste Championship at Waste Management at 80-1. The Waste Championship. So I've got 4 80-1 Min Woo futures in my chamber. I believe he can win everything. Not all of them, like hopefully just one of them, but I believe he's capable of everything, and we're going to a major championship venue. So he piques my interest, as does Oberg, Morikawa, Finau, Sahith. And maybe just some guys who are also a little short, who we haven't gotten to, like a Sepp Straka. But I don't know that I could actually bet that.
Is there a course better designed for Aubert Like, you need to be long and straight. Like, at no other course is that going to be more of an advantage than at this course.
And if he's on like the true like God Rom path traj, then we just win here as a rook.
Yeah.
I bet him, when you do this week in, week out, you'd sort of try to use the baseline of there's never fair. You'd rather almost like who's gonna win. Sometimes when I'm like, let's get a fair number, and you're like, fuck the value hunting. It's about who's going to win. Aubert was, I believe, like 25-1, Pat, to win the BMW in Europe. And that was a super strong field. And pretty much every member of the European Ryder Cup team, and I assume some good Americans, although maybe not, because none of them played in that, and that ended up being like a storyline. That field to me almost felt as good as this, and that wasn't a course fit at all. And he had a Sunday lead. So I can't not bet him here. And I don't know that link should mean anything, but I'm just trying to maybe find myself some semblance of like that the number's not even unfair, getting a 20 on him on this golf course.
Okay. Did you want to make a case for Finau besides I like Finau, or are you just rolling with that?
Course history. He's always played well here for the most part, Pat. I don't think there's been a edition of this tournament in the last 5 years maybe, that I didn't bet him. I would also like to add in that his T25, he double bogeyed the last. So I want to call it a T15.
Sure.
Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
Yeah, great. Tony was able to come even if we give him the extra 10 spots on the leaderboard. Yeah, Tony was able to come T15 at the American Express. Congrats.
But yeah, you're right. He could probably be the first guy. He might be a name that of everyone else that I'm interested in, he's probably the easiest for me to cross off. He's the one I do feel the less beholden to, although, yeah, I mean, it's a really dumb take. Why do you like this guy? Well, I've always felt he's destined to win this tournament one year. That's probably not going to cut it.
I tried that with the Bills. I tried that with the Bills on Sunday. That was not successful.
Yeah. Oh man.
So let's jump to the 50+ range, because there are a few names in here. The problem is I mentioned the top 10 link that you had a previous top 10 at a tournament and then go to win. I've bet Minwoo and Aubert, who have not played in this tournament before. So, maybe try to ride those ROM vibes with it. But you also have like Højgaard is right around this range. Then you have like Berger. Actually, Berger made the cut. That was nice to see. Ryan Fox was obviously the one that piqued my interest here, where he's 75-1. I thought he'd open way shorter than that. He didn't have a great run through Dubai. He played both events. I think he was T17 and T31 or something like that. So it wasn't great, but he's another guy who just bombs it off the tee, has a good enough short game. He's very good with his wedges that I can see it with him. It just seems like a very big number. And Luke List is right there too. Everyone's going to bet Keith Mitchell because he shot like 48 on Sunday at the American Express. I'd pass on him and go with List over Mitchell and Fox over. I think for me, it's between Fox and List.
Fox, I knew we were going to get to that because that number did stick out. That seemed a little high. List, past champion. He's checked your boxes, cashed it for you. I feel embarrassed because I can't see him. Is Detry in the field?
Yeah. He's 90-1. But did you think he was going to be like 30-1?
No, I didn't. But
I'd rather bet Taylor Montgomery again.
Yeah, no, because I was going to say, I don't actually know what's going on with Thomas. I used to be able to trust so much off the tee, and that hasn't really been there, I feel, and now we're not getting the results. Everything sort of, I want to say sometimes would come from that. Who did you say? Oh, Montgomery. Yeah, the driver putter. Can he chip well enough to get out of a bit of trouble?
No.
But he hits every 8-footer.
He does. Like, the dude is lights out on the green. He's been 31st and 11th here the past 2 years. Now we're just getting a much better number on him. But again, I've bet 4 guys in that 20 to 50 range, and I have 1 guy at 200. Like, I have room for like Fox and Montgomery if I really wanted to, with the way that I'm structuring everything out. But I had Fox, Højgaard, Montgomery, and List written down as the ones to go to. And I'd probably take a pass on Højgaard because I've already gone with 2 guys who haven't played here before. And I'd want more on his number than 45 or 50. So at least Fox, List, and Montgomery all in that like 70 to 90 range. I don't mind that. I could get behind that unless there's other guys that you want to talk me into.
I don't really have anything I can talk you into other than, do we not got to play the, I don't know.
Dunlap?
Take some placings with the Japanese kid at over 100?
Who, Ryu?
Yeah. Or is this just like, this is a true, you almost want to, this is a litmus test of we're finally going to a course that can penalize you?
Well, it's been a lot of putting for Ryu. And maybe he continues doing that. Like, he gained 7 strokes putting at the Sony, and it only ended up coming T30. Played well enough at the Barbasol last year. He like lost 7 strokes putting, but he gained on approach, and that's a longer course. He gained off the tee there. Shot link is like fucked for the American Express. So like we emailed them this morning. It's like, where are the stats? They're like, yeah, we're working on it. Just like bear with us on this. But I can almost assure you, like after watching his low round on Sunday, he was just chipping in and making 30 footers the entire time. That maybe he continue pushing that forward. He wouldn't be the type of guy that I'd be looking at here. I'd be looking at more American bomber deeper down the list. Like, I bet Sam Stevens at 200 to 1. Like, when I looked at who plays the best in this field, strokes gained wise, total, on courses that are over 7,400 yards, he was number 1.
Would not have guessed that.
No. And he's actually, I mean, at 2 shorter courses to start his season, he's kind of getting it back on the rails a little bit. Like, he had a terrible end to the season. He had a terrible swing season. He had a terrible Sunday at the American Express, but, you know, he ended up coming 65th. He was 24th at Sony, and he almost fits the List profile in a really weird way. He has, like, plus distance. The irons can be like good or bad, like depending on the week, but his around the green game has been shockingly good, especially lately. Like for his career, he's like, you know, a half stroke a tournament. Over the past 5, he's gaining 2 strokes per tournament. Over the past 10, he's gaining a stroke per tournament. And the putter just runs hot and cold. Mainly cold, but you get him on POA, maybe that's a little bit different. It's 200 to 1 with the top 5 placements, so.
Rom won here last year, right?
No, Homo won. Rom had it. There was a hole where Rom like chipped it 5 feet in front of himself like 3 times in a row and took himself out of the tournament.
But this is where they interviewed Sam Ryder's mom, where he had the multi-stroke lead on the back, right?
That is correct. Ryder was running away with this. Then they interviewed his parents. That was the end of Sam Ryder.
Oh, they're trying to build the story.
But he's an interesting look here.
Interesting. That's where I was going.
He is 110 to 1. He has top 10s here. He was 4th last year. He was 7th 3 years ago. So obviously there's something about this course that does fit his eye.
And it's rewarded course history in the past. I imagine he'll be very popular in the games.
I would guess that I don't know what his DraftKings pricing is going to be, obviously, but I bet you it's pretty up there. Like for like the quality of like, instead of being 7,100, he'll be like 7,800 or something. And then that makes it, you know, not as great when he's the same price as like Taylor Montgomery. There is one other player who we watch. He ended up bogeying the 72nd hole to ruin his bogey streak, but Kevin Yu might be a look here. Any interest in Kevin Yu coming off a hot week?
How far does he hit it?
A ways. Kevin Yu 4th in the field in driving distance.
Yeah, I'm interested.
The top 10, I mean, there is a name that we just completely talked over, and maybe we shouldn't have, but Zalatoris is 45 to 1. He made the cut last week.
Made the cut last week. He lost in the playoff to List. I don't know that I've seen enough to pull the trigger, because I don't think I would want to push someone off my card for him. But I'm encouraged by that. And obviously the books are going to start every week. If he shows life, they're going to hop it down. But just in terms of guys we kind of skipped over, like I think both, past champions and Rose and Day are very live this week. I don't know if I'll be able to bet them though.
I completely agree with you, but I'm not getting to Day at 25-1, and I'm not getting to Rose at 45-1, considering I just bet him at the Sony Open at 65-1.
Rose won here after he bitched about his new Homa clubs.
Yeah.
Something happened. He was bitching, but then he went to because all the manufacturers are right here. So every good player, well, even the bad players, everyone can get it on. Obviously I have the touring trucks that follow these guys around, but they can go get the 5-star tune-ups this week out in Carlsbad. All of them. 20 minutes down the road.
Okay. So outside of Rose and Day, who you're not going to bet that you just brought up, who are some other names?
Well, I feel like I kind of said I'm swinging. I'm taking swings. I don't think I'm betting anyone north of that 70, 80 to 1. There'll have to be a harder sell on me to be able to find the units or even to want them. This long shot shit's got to end. So 25 to 40 to 1, sort of where I'm just going to live.
I'll try to put in that modeling that I talked about with accuracy, strokes gained off the tee, and long iron play. Maybe even couple that with short game. But I mean, that really hasn't proven itself out. Because Molinari's in this field. He's played well at this tournament in the past. I've mentioned Morikawa. Keegan would be another one. So we'll try to find the links between those guys. And you can do that at fantasynational.com/Mayo to get yourself that discount. But in terms of driving distance and you're thinking about long shots, there's a bunch. If you just want to straight up gamble on some of these guys, Minwoo is number 1 in the field in driving distance. Obviously, he's 30 to 1, so he doesn't qualify as the long shot. The next 15 guys on the list, only Zalatoris is below 50 to 1. So Zalatoris is 10th, and he's 45 to 1. Number 2 is Champ, 200 to 1. Goddard, 300 to 1. Kevin Yu, 110 to 1. Higo, 300 to 1. Callum Tarrant, 350 to 1. Your boy, Patrick Rogers, 70 to 1. Vegas, 250 to 1, who's made the cut here for the past 5 years and 8 of the past 10 years, and blew my DraftKings lineup for me last weekend when he missed a very easy putt on the 54th hole to miss the cut by 1 stroke. Thanks, Johnny. Woodland is 130, lost in a playoff here before. Zalatoris, who I mentioned. Toasty, the Panda, Norm Zong, Chan Kim, 4chan, Long Dong, Paul Barjan's 1,000 to 1, Jake Knapp. I mean, he put your lineups to Knapp last week when he was the only dude to finish over par at the American Express, but he does put the ball out there quite a ways. He is 300 to 1. And after that, you got Taylor Moore. He was T11th here last year. He's 110 to 1. Pendrith is 80 to 1. Davis Riley's 400 to 1. Semi Kawa might actually be the luck, or Will Gordon. I believe I bet Will Gordon here last year. He's 250 to 1. He's 23rd in the field in driving distance. I'm surprised Semi Kawa is up there. Maybe let's play low Japanese Semi Kawa. Get him to beat Hideki, and Hideki's playing, right? We just kind of glossed over him. Hideki and Rigo.
Yeah, we've glossed over Hideki. We've glossed over Ricky, but I don't know what we're supposed to say. Ricky, I saw through Saturday, was 3 under par at a resort course pro-am.
I hear that's not good.
No, it's not going to get the job done, and it would not leave me inspired at all to bet him. But, that was forever. Ricky was, the homeboy, and he would always struggle at Torrey anyway, right? So.
Yeah, he would always struggle at Torrey, and I mean, we didn't know exactly why. Maybe it was a bad course fit, whatever it might be. But he always, because he was a Farmers Insurance guy, that he had so many media obligations before the tournament actually started that I always felt like that was bad for him.
Yeah, and on it, we've spoken about it before, but the final edition of Farmers for the San Diego Open.
See, I heard that's not the case. I heard that the contract actually expires in 2026. They just said they're not renewing it.
Oh, okay. So that's it. That's an important distinction, but also to be that far out from expiration and to not even give a shit what sort of, to be that far out from negotiation. Maybe it's from expiration. Maybe it's a negotiating tactic. Maybe the PGA will get on their hands and knees over the next year to keep them. Who knows?
I still can't believe they lost Honda.
That was a lot. I mean, that is as much to do with like no one got that was Honda pretty much saying enough isn't like you can only take so many hot dumps on us. And I get it. They have built stable relationships with hot dumps. Like John Deere is happy. I guess they know their place in the ecosystem and they continue to happily get what they get. Honda was just it's like it had its insides ripped out.
And I think
Again, I still say Jack wanted they could have match play at Honda. I don't know that any players would want to show up, but
it'd be awesome.
That's my dream.
And Monahan did say that match play is not dead. Like he wants to bring it back somewhere. It's just not on the schedule for this year. And I think that because when the elevated events were first announced, that there was going to be like a rotation of elevated events. We've seen it a little bit, although like Harbortown continues to get one, the Travelers continues to get one. I think eventually those will be moved off a little bit, and they don't make a ton of sense because they happen like the weeks after majors, which is strange. That I think
so
John Deere is
other than Pebble and other than Pebble switching with waste management for elevated status. What else got elevated?
Nothing did, but the initial conversation was that there was going to be a rotation of this. That if that's still the case, and I think John Deere is holding on for the elevated event at TPC Deer Run.
So I do agree. I remember hearing that their plan was essentially like a full-on rotation of elevated, and at some point everyone gets a taste. Some would get more than others, but everyone will be included. And they better suck up to RBC because RBC's got expiring contracts on 2 tournaments. So RBC should get whatever they ask for because they can't afford to lose them. But there's a lot of talk here that is seems like there's a lot of fear in Golf Canada that could be done, which would be really bad.
Well, time to get
really bad.
Time to get back on the Export A Open. Get Sigs back into the mix.
Yeah, they got to change SIGs, gambling. I guess they got to booze. They got to do something. You're right. We got to let booze back in the game. The Johnny Walker Classic. We got to get that shit back in North America. I remember my race cars, Marlboro and Players, that Villeneuve car.
Yeah, and Paul Tracy. I went as Paul Tracy.
Oh, yeah, Paul Tracy car,
I went for Halloween as Paul Tracy one year, my freshman year of college, and got the absolute crap beat out of me on Halloween night. So I dyed my hair blonde, the only time I had ever dyed my hair blonde my entire life. It was dyed red by the next morning, and I still have the scar underneath that. Broke my orbital bone and nose in a fight. Not fun.
See these hands? Never been in a fight.
Lost a lot of fights. When you run your mouth like that, you lose a lot of fights. Very punchable face, too. So, happens. You move on. Here are some guys with fairways gained inside the top 30 that also have proximity from 200 yards inside the top 35 over the past 36 rounds. Morikawa, Daniel Berger, Straka, Svensson, Carson Young, Harrison Endicott, who was like 11 under on Saturday at the Amex, Mark Hubbard, Shez Reavie, Hayden Buckley, likes to fuckley, Shane Lowry, who I totally forgot was in this tournament, and JJ Spawn, who's had some decent run here in the past. Eckroat is another one. Eckroat's 130 to 1. I think of all of like the value down the list, he would be the one because it feels like he's going to win at some point, doesn't it?
Absolutely. There was a run where I like bet him for a month straight last summer, I think, in the shitty tier events, probably around like Detroit, Minnesota. Didn't go well. Seb Straka is a guy you mentioned in that tier, and I wish he was more. I wish it was like the 65 to 1 Seps. Because the guy does things right, Pat, and he plays these hard courses. He's showing up a lot. His resume of finishes is pretty impressive.
It is. He was 16th here 2 years ago, 32nd in 2021, and 13th in 2019, which is strange because the dude like can't chip to save his life, but he chips well here.
7th at the PGA, 2nd at the Open, 5th at the Honda, and then obviously like he went like Eclipse. He went more hardcore than a Kevin Streelman Eclipse at the John Deere. Yeah, so if you put this place in an exact, see, it's not so much exacting because you could bomb the shit out of it. So maybe it isn't maybe the most ideal SEP course because he's good on like exacting difficult courses. If what I'm saying makes any sense.
Yeah, like the shorter courses that are more precision based off the tee.
Yeah, like where you really don't want to be in the wrong spots because he can make huge numbers, but I don't know. It's
Man,
for all like the looks of. There's like a tier of golfer here that to me should be paying more and they aren't, and it is sort of like Harris English, Sepp Straka, Justin Rose.
Semi Kawa is the only player in the field who ranks inside the top 30 in both accuracy and distance. Isn't that weird? He's like not good either. He came 30th at the Sony. That's his best career finish on the PGA Tour.
That's like a Terrell Hatton stat.
Yeah, that is a Terrell Hatton stat for sure.
Who apparently there's reports they're still chasing him hard. They've gotten a couple like hard no's from other Ryder Cuppers. Obviously the Fleetwood rumors that he turned down 75, 100 million.
I think I'm going to bet
Rahm still needs to.
I'm going to bet Semikawa. You know, did you know he's named after Tiger Woods?
No, but I saw there's a basketball player, first name Iverson, last name Allen, which I thought was boss.
That's kind of funny. So let's see here. Although Ryu is kind of the guy that everyone's talking up at the moment, Semikawa was number one in the world AM rankings. He was number one before Ludwig was number one. So maybe he's just taking.
People were more likely to think Semikawa was going to win this year before Dunlap.
Yes.
Well,
I mean, I didn't even think people thought that Dunlap was going to play in an event. He was going to play in like the Masters and the U.S. Open and the Open because he won the U.S. AM, but
no one got paid. Yes, second place gets first place money.
Yeah, Bez walked away with the purse in the one and done. All the Bez team shot to the top.
Yeah, that's so good. And I thought they changed the rule because of Zalatoris, but he can't get points because he's an amateur.
Correct.
And why wouldn't he? Could he not have said, I'm not on Saturday night?
No.
Could he not have abandoned amateur?
I thought the same thing, but you have to do it before the tournament.
Oh. I guess it doesn't, it is what it is. Like in a year or two, he's going to be making so much money. He'll just laugh at like this check.
He's probably making so much money now with the NIL.
And that was another part of it. For all the things going on in the golf ecosystem of like apparel and contracts ending, Adidas.
It's pronounced Adidas.
Adidas. They are on there. They got Ludwig. They got this kid. I'm pretty sure they're on the Thorbjornsen kid. So they're doing a div. They're just paying the kids. They're paying the next wave, as no one else seems to want to be investing. Good for them.
All right. Well, I will most definitely bet Semikawa low Japanese. Maybe I'll get there at 300 to 1 as well. Why not? It's worth my 5 and 5. Quick picks for the Farmers Insurance Open. Let's try to hit a winner. I'm going with Ludwig Aubert, 19 to 1. Min Lee, 30 to 1. Keegan Bradley, 35 to 1. Sahith Theegala at 45 to 1. And then the only other bet that I currently have in is Sam Stevens at 200 to 1. The other names that I'm toying around with, Semikawa at 300 to 1, or potentially low Japanese. Fox and List are right there. And keep an eye on Eric Barnes if he ends up getting into this field. I believe he's the second alternate right now. He was T13 a year ago. He just returned off knee surgery and played really well at the Amex. Dude crushes the ball. So, as a top 20, top 30, if that's a market you want to play in, he might not even end up making it onto the betting board if he ends up getting into the tournament, because it might just be too late. He might not be available on DraftKings, but I would keep an eye on him this week. But those are the 5 that I have in right now, and I'll probably listen, I'm going to end up on Fox. I'm going to bet Ryan Fox. So just throw him on there too. Taylor Montgomery was the other one I wanted to give a look at.
I've been told I should quit him.
That's probably a good idea.
Our friend Andy has always been encouraging me to quit him. Quit him before you get in too deep. For me, it is Ludwig, it is Sahith. Everything else from there is still a decision to be made, including my boy Minwoo, Finau. I think I could pull off Morikawa at the highest number I could find, the 20 on Oberg, the 45 on Sahith. I could pull a 3-man power pack. I could do that.
All right.
I might do that. I might get away with that.
One and done selections for the Farmers Insurance Open. Our 3-man game does not reflect our selections in the race for the Mayo Cup because playing against 4,400 people is a lot different than playing against 2 other people. You remain in the lead by $600,000 over me because of Ben Ann's second place finish. Cust has selected Colin Morikawa. I'm going to take Keegan Bradley because you're not going to do that. So who are you going to take?
I'm going to take Jason Day.
Good call. I like that.
I
think he might win next week.
I can't pull 25 to 1, but he's going to be there this week, I think.
I think if you're going
to me think maybe I should.
If you're going to use Day, I'd say you use him this week or next week because he dominates at Pebble too.
I'm using him this week. Next week with Elevated, they'll be I don't know. I'll be drawn to a sexier name.
You don't think he's looking sexy in those hammer pants?
I'm not a fan. I am not a fan. I'm not like a full fan. I'm talking about the outfit. I love Jason Day, but I'm not a fan of what's going on. I like that the bigger names backing away from higher end players can allow some of this fun stuff because I'm into the fact I want people to get crazy. You know me, crazy. I'm in for it. So I glad hand some of the Victor tops. Oh, so God. It won't take much for me to glad hand people doing some crazy shit out there.
I almost didn't want to bet Sahith because of the goofy hats that they have him and like Hatton and playing in. Like they're just god awful.
Oh, the pay. And that was Hawaii though. That they do that in Hawaii. That's Hawaii. You will not see that this week.
I better not, because that's going to make me feel very bad about my money being invested in him.
It's a Hawaii collection from Ping. You will not see that stateside.
I better not.
You didn't see Ping players wearing it last week at the MX, I don't believe.
How much of the MX did you watch?
None. The end. Saturday night. The back 9 of like the good players on Saturday on the side screen watching football. And then yesterday I was pretty into it because I had a ticket.
I can't believe that Dunlap, although Cuss didn't like openly root for him or say that it's over, when he DM'd us that, who is this guy? I thought that was curtains for him. And it was because he like double bogeyed immediately, but then he ended up rallying back. Should we bet that guy? Maybe he'll go on a heater. Dunlap, 100 to 1.
Never heard of him.
What? He just won.
I was just trying to make a joke.
Oh, that fell flat.
Did not work out well. I'll try to save my good material for tomorrow.
You get to run your promo video tomorrow. You get to pick what promo video you want. You need to email that me because we have to do.
I have not released. It has not been released yet. I got something good. I knew I could release this today on the Twitter, and I could save this one for exclusive world premiere on the football show.
See, I thought that, the Custies campaign is going on. You can vote in the Custies down in the description right now. But I thought you guys were like, you guys must have so many memes in campaign material because you guys were blowing them on like a Saturday morning.
Yeah, see, maybe I was just trying to let people know I'm out here campaigning early hours on the weekend. I had a lot of material. But at the same time, I thought he was going to punch back harder. So I've been sitting on some shit. Like I've been sitting on things, you don't just, you're like a coach. You have a plan, but you got to counterpunch the other play calls.
Okay.
I would also say a lot of the responses on his stuff, like pretty stale. I don't know that they were ready for me to come out campaigning. We'll see what they got. But I'm going to win tomorrow's commercial. I'll guarantee it. I've weaponized Cam. I have weaponized the true man of the people.
I liked your angle that Tim disrespects trade workers. That was an interesting angle.
That is clearly true. Highly skilled tradesman, he thinks he's got what you got.
That will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. So tune in tomorrow night. We'll tune in tomorrow for the DraftKings show with Tambo, then tune in tomorrow night for the Spread Pick show. Only 2 games left, so there's going to be a lot of like Jeff and Tim fighting, I assume, on that show as we move forward. And then we'll still be here during the football off week with a football show as we go through awards, all that fun stuff. So a ton of content coming at you on the Pat Mayo Experience very, very soon. That will do it for me playing the Listeners League. Sub to the newsletter and subscribe to Mayo Media Network, both in the podcast version and in video version. You can follow Geoff Fienberg on Twitter at gfienberg17, me at the PME, and that'll do it, okay? We'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!